Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, it was announced yesterday in a dramatic 180-degree U-turn that, I don't know if you can call him comedian because he's not funny, left-wing activist, Trump hater, masquerading as a comedian, Jimmy Kimmel, is going to be back on the air tonight. That's right. Jimmy Kimmel Live, his show, is going to be reinstated tonight. The news broke yesterday. According now to the Wall Street Journal and other media outlets, apparently Jimmy Kimmel was negotiating directly with the president, the CEO of Disney himself, Bob Iger, and his number two man, Dana Walden. And together, they hammered out a deal with Jimmy Kimmel in which he will now come back on the air and he will not be apologizing at all for the disgusting, callous, vile comments that he said about Charlie Kirk and about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And the reason why ABC and Disney have made this decision is because they came under tremendous pressure from Hollywood celebrities led by Tom Hanks, Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep. Down it went. The royalty of Hollywood said they insisted Kimmel must be back on the air. CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the pressure was enormous, saying that the firing of Jimmy Kimmel was a form of cancel culture, if you can believe this. So suddenly now the left cares about cancel culture? Really? And that it violated the First Amendment. And that Jimmy Kimmel, I kid you not, was a martyr for the First Amendment. And so, under this kind of withering pressure, with the Democrats barreling down on Disney, with the left barreling down on ABC, they completely reversed course, and now Jimmy Kimmel will be back on the air. Not only will he be back on the air, he will not be apologizing, and apparently he is going to double, even triple down on his attacks on Trump, on MAGA, and on MAGA supporters. So, and in particular, I want to single this out. There were two Republicans, and I named them on X last night, and I want to name them again now. Senators Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, to their eternal shame, led the charge against Disney, against ABC, for having indefinitely preempted Jimmy Kimmel's show, for having suspended him for his vile, frankly offensive, and incendiary comments. Ted Cruz wanted Kimmel back on the air. Rand Paul wanted Kimmel back on the air. Because those two losers, and I'm choosing my word now very carefully, they are losers, we're going on about, oh, now conservatives and the Trump administration are no different than the left. They're now embracing cancel culture. They're censoring Jimmy. This is a violation of Jimmy's First Amendment constitutional rights. We're now no better than the left. We have to champion Jimmy and put him back on the air. Are you happy now? No, really, to Ted Cruz and Rand Paul. And don't worry, he's going to come after you. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Okay? They're going to come after you. Are you happy now? So now this POS, and that's what he is. That's what Jimmy Kimmel is. Let's be clear. This piece of you-know-what is now going to be back on the air to spew his bile, his hatred, his bigotry, to go and incite even more violence. and championed the very kind of hate culture that got Charlie Kirk killed? Are you happy? Now you know why Republicans always lose. Now you know why. Because of spineless turncoats like Ted Cruz and like Rand Paul. Now, when I saw the story yesterday, I couldn't believe it. I go, you couldn't even wait, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks? Literally, he didn't even miss a paycheck. Jimmy Kimmel did not miss a paycheck. And he's already back on the air? Listen now to what the original remarks by Jimmy Kimmel that got him suspended for, 5 days? 5 days. Roll the cut 11A, Mike.
Some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
But then he went on to criticize Trump, mock Trump, saying he's grieving the way a 4-year-old, like a 4-year-old boy who loses a goldfish, okay, whose goldfish died. Now, that's a lie. By the way, he's not going to retract that. He's not going to go on the air and say, what I said to you was false. It was a lie. No. So you pushed the lie that Tyler Robinson, the assassin of Charlie Kirk, was a MAGA supporter. That is pure disinformation. That is 1,000% disinformation. It's a bald-faced lie. More than that, you are inciting violence against MAGA supporters. Because now they're the scapegoat for everything. They're responsible for everything. They're responsible even for the death of Charlie Kirk. That's why, to me, what ABC and Disney are doing now is so wrong on so many levels, it's not even funny. But let's be clear, my friends, okay? We have to stare reality in the face. The woke mob won again. And notice, under Joe Biden, I'm just stating the facts. How many, we're not talking Jimmy Kimmel. I'm talking thousands, if not millions, literally millions of Americans were censored, were deplatformed, were literally thrown off, for example, Twitter, and their voices completely suppressed because they dared to question the COVID jab, because they dared to question the mask mandates, because they dared to question the closings of the schools, because they dared to question the lockdowns. And nobody cared about their First Amendment rights. And we have the smoking gun emails where literally the Biden White House, forget the FCC, the Biden White House was telling the then owner of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, take this guy's account down. Take her account down. No. You can't allow this. No. This has to be censored. No. This tweet or whatever has to be removed. So, Americans' First Amendment constitutional rights were systematically violated under Joe Biden. Nothing. No recourse, no redress to all those conservatives. You don't like that? What about Roseanne Barr? Tell me, did Rand Paul and Ted Cruz cry for Roseanne? When she, not some low-rated show that loses money, the way Jimmy Kimmel loses money. The #1 hit show on ABC because of comments that she made on her personal social media account about Valerie Jarrett. And ABC cut her loose and fired her. Did I see Hollywood go up in arms? Did I suddenly see MSNBC and CNN and the New York Times and she has the right to creative artistic expression? This is a violation of the First Amendment. They celebrated and cheered it. Or, as I said yesterday on Newsmax, when I was on Newsmax and I was debating a lefty, And he was going on about how unjust it was that Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air. I said, really? You mean like Tucker Carlson? When they pushed Tucker off his show, and by the way, Tucker's a journalist. This guy's a freaking comedian. Because he dared to show January 6 footage. None of you complained. None of you talked about freedom of expression or freedom of speech or all the evils of cancel culture. You loved it. And so as I told them, you on the left created the rules. Now you have to live by them. But you see, they don't. They don't. The left can create all kinds of rules that persecute, oppress, demonize conservatives, censor conservatives, and that's okay. Jimmy Kimmel now is back. The woke mob has won. And for just according to every media report I've seen out there, this is now being seen by many in Hollywood, by many Democrats, and clearly by people around Jimmy Kimmel as a big victory over the Trump administration. And in fact, Kimmel is now expecting to gloat. He will not be apologizing for his comments. He says there is nothing for him to apologize for. In fact, according to even people very close to Jimmy Kimmel, after the furor, the firestorm that was ignited by his vile, disgusting comments about the assassin, Charlie Kirk's assassin, and the assassination of Charlie Kirk, he was planning to literally double down. And Disney came out with a statement yesterday that they felt that this was going to pour even more gasoline on the fire, be even more incendiary, and that's why they decided to take him off the air for a couple of days. So this man, there's no contrition, there's no remorse. If anything now, he's become a hero, if you can believe this, in Hollywood. Now, let me just make a couple more points, and I want to go right to the phone lines, 617-266-6868. A couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Number one, Disney and ABC now own this. Jimmy Kimmel, not Bob Iger, the head of Disney, the CEO of Disney. Jimmy Kimmel now runs Disney and runs ABC. Let's be very clear. Even though his ratings are in the tank, even though he's losing money, bleeding money for ABC, the fact that he is a Hollywood leftist and the fact that he has deep ties and connections to the Democratic Party, it's like a mafia racket. He's got all the protection that he needs. And what they did was they threatened, intimidated, and bullied Disney and ABC to cower to the mob, to capitulate and cave to the woke mob. And how you could now hitch your star to a man who's been on the air, listen to this, for 22 years, who, by the way, makes between 15 and 16, I'm going by media reports now, $15 to $16 million a year. They say with bonuses, he makes about $20 million a year. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars with multiple mansions. And all he's done is lose money for Disney and ABC for years. And has the lowest ratings of all the late night talk shows. And their ratings are horrible. His are even worse than horrible. And yet you're going to spit in our face like this? You're going to desecrate and insult the memory of Charlie Kirk? And more importantly for me, MAGA and Trump supporters? Okay, you want to make your bed? You now lie in it. You now lie in it. It is time now for conservatives and Trump supporters and MAGA, if we're going to do anything, if we're going to take back our country, honestly, it's time to grow up. I'm sorry, but I have to say this. It's not enough to just boycott Jimmy Kimmel's show. No, 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 no. Because we don't watch his show anyway. Hell, nobody watches his show. I think tonight he's going to have the highest ratings ever because everyone's going to say, these liberals are going to tune in and say, what's he going to say? And of course, he's just going to dump all over Trump and dump all over MAGA and do a victory dance and gloat about how he faced down Trump and his FCC and he's a fighter for freedom of speech. And then the ratings will tank again. And again, he'll have, 130,000 people watching him? I mean, this whole thing is a joke. It's not enough to just boycott his show. Cancel your subscriptions to Disney. Don't watch a Disney movie. Boycott every single Disney product. From now on, Disney is toxic. It is radioactive. ABC, don't watch a single second of any programming from ABC. That includes their football, their professional, NFL. I don't care what it is. Their game shows, their soaps, whatever you watch. Okay? Whatever it is that you watch, don't give them a second of your time or your ratings, which gives them no money. As I said on X yesterday, let them now feel our wrath. Let them now pay the ultimate economic price. This is the kind of scumbag you want to put back on the air? Okay. But now we're changing. We're changing the channel. And we're never going to watch you again. Let me say one last thing. And then I want to go right to the phone lines. I want you to think about this. Jimmy Kimmel got a paid vacation. Literally, he got a paid vacation to spend time with his kids. The left considers Jimmy Kimmel being suspended for 3 or 4 days, paid, as a greater attack and assault on free speech than the shooting and killing of Charlie Kirk. Okay, Disney and the parent company of ABC. So ABC and Disney now are going to put Jimmy Kimmel, back on the air. He is returning tonight. No apology, no retraction. In fact, Kimmel is going to double down on his attacks on Trump and Trump supporters in the wake of his vile, disgusting comments, his incendiary comments about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Your reaction, you can text the Kuhner Man as well, 70470, 70470. This is from Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent, who I think makes a very, very good point. Jeff, liberals want rules for everyone but themselves. They're hypocrites. There's no question. How many careers have they destroyed through cancel culture? How much government sanctioned censorship just under the Biden administration alone? Did they go and get conservatives fired, knocked off the air? People canceled, censored on social media? Literally millions and millions and millions of conservatives. First Amendment rights completely trampled on, completely violated. No problem. And this loser, and by the way, since when does ABC, what about their First Amendment rights? What about that of Sinclair, the affiliates? Or Nexstar? Together, Sinclair and Nexstar own over, 60 stations, ABC affiliate stations. So what, they don't have First Amendment rights? Like what? Suddenly now in the Constitution, in the First Amendment, it says you have a God-given right to an FCC licensed show? Jimmy Kimmel has the right to say whatever he wants and no private company can fire him? They shot up an ABC building in Sacramento on Friday. The DA is now admitting that the crazed anti-Trump leftist who did it was protesting the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel. They were getting death threats from the radical left. And so again, this woke mob, this culture of violence and intimidation has paid off again for the left. So is this how it works now? You shoot up, you shoot up broadcast networks' buildings, their affiliates. You go to stations and you shoot them up. Okay, we're going to put the show back on the air because we don't want to get shot in the head like Charlie Kirk. Is this the kind of country we want to live in? I don't think so. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Let's go to CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
Jeff, the only thing a smart American needs to realize is why Jimmy Kimmel is still on the air after losing millions and millions of dollars for ABC and Disney. And the answer is quite simple. Jimmy Kimmel is nothing more than a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party to take down Republicans, conservatives, anyone who does not agree with the agenda of the Democratic Communist Party. That is the reason why. And the head of the FCC should recognize this, reinvestigate this, and put out a notice that these television networks that are using their platform to promote an anti-American, anti-Christian way of life in this country, that they're going to lose their license. That's what needs to happen. That's the only question that needs to be asked here as to why. And if you remember, if Americans will remember the problems that Disney had with the DEI down in Florida at Disney World and Epcot, I mean, they were losing millions and millions and millions of dollars because people boycotted their DEI policies. And what's happening now is their Democratic Communist parties have continued with Kimmel, using him as a mouthpiece for the Democratic Communist Party. You know, as for these actors and actresses, Tom Hanks and the rest, that's their base. The liberals are their base. And this is going to continue to happen. They don't care. 2 assassinations on Trump. They'll take Trump out. Charlie Kirk. It wasn't Charlie Kirk per se that they killed. They killed what he stood for. They are trying to kill what the majority of Americans stand for. That's being straight, being religious, being with family. That's the American value that these people are trying to strip away from this country. And their hope is that if Mandami becomes the next mayor of New York City, that every blue city in the country will have a Mandami at the helm. They will take out anyone, any American, any individual who speaks against their policies. They will take them out. So what is free speech? I mean, what is free speech? But just to give you a perfect example of how the mainstream media works, and you know this well, while standing on in front of the front steps of the State House for that vigil for Charlie Kirk last week, there was a Boston Channel 5 cameraman and reporter. And I said, hey, buddy, I says, take a look here. Take a look around. Don't report later tonight or tomorrow morning there were a few hundred people here. There are thousands and thousands of people here. So what did every local news channel say? There were hundreds of people here.
Well, see, CJ, look, you put your finger on it. They lie, and they lie with impunity, and they lie all the time. And I go back to Jimmy Kimmel, to your point. What is freedom of speech? So you can stand there with a broadcast license. Think about this. Okay, we pay for that. Those are our airwaves. Remember this. We pay for all this. And you can stand there and literally lie. Irrefutably lie that the person who murdered Charlie Kirk was part of the quote-unquote MAGA gang, and that it was MAGA and it was Trump supporters who murdered Charlie Kirk. Now, that's insane. It's wrong. It's literally the definition of disinformation, or as the Russians like to put it, disinformatio. And you get a 5-day paid vacation? That's it? That's your punishment? You get to play with your kids? Charlie Kirk is never going to play with his kids. He's dead. Charlie Kirk's kids will never play with their father ever, ever again. But he's not the martyr for free speech, according to these sickos on the left. No, 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 no. It's Jimmy. Jimmy. And I think you're right. We have to ask ourselves, because if you include the bonuses, he makes $20 million a year. 617-266-6868 is the number. CJ made a very good point about Disney. And look, Disney now is living on fumes of its past. This is not the Disney that I grew up with, that most of you grew up with. This is not even the Disney of, hell, 20 years ago. This is not even just a woke company, bad as that is. It now has a toxic internal culture. It's run by perverts and degenerates. And all they do now is make shows, movies, products, whatever, for the LGBTQ plus community. Like, literally, that's what they exist. So it's a company now that is not what it once was. They're in the indoctrination business. They're in the politics, the far left politics business, masquerading as entertainment. This is not, the days of Mickey Mouse, those days are long gone. Long gone. Now, let me just say this about ABC. How do you have a network? I'm just saying, again, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Okay. Now remember, they have a broadcast license. Okay, or to be more accurate, their stations have broadcast licenses that have to be renewed. So, you have a late-night comedy show. In theory, quote-unquote comedy. It's not comedy. It's just non-stop anti-Trump bashing and hatred. That's what it is. That has the lowest possible ratings imaginable. That is hemorrhaging cash. You have The View, another garbage show. Talking about grossly ignorant people who serve as a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party, just like Jimmy Kimmel serves as a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. Then you have that ridiculous show on Sunday with Steffi Stephanopoulos and Martha Raddatz, who, by the way, ABC had to shell out $15 million to Trump because they lost the defamation lawsuit. Because, again, they're not news people. They're parrots. They're activists for the Democratic Party. So how is it that you have an entire let's not even talk about David Muir and, what passes for evening news. He was the guy that rigged the debate between Trump and Kamala and tried to win the election for Kamala in that single debate. So you've got a hack who runs your evening news. You've got hacks on The View. You've got hacks on your late night entertainment. You've got hacks on your Sunday news show. All 1,000%, literally 1,000% Democrat. Rabidly anti-Trump, rabidly anti-conservative. Where's the freedom of speech? No, literally, where's the freedom of speech? Tell me. Where's the other side? Where are traditional conservative points of view? You can't even put on one conservative show to offset all of the liberal programming, all of the pro-Democrat propaganda programming? And it's not just ABC. CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, It's all the same thing, man. I think the only exception is Scott Jennings on CNN. That they have literally one conservative pundit on CNN. And I don't know if you saw the story. Keith Olbermann literally tried now. He's calling for Scott Jennings to be murdered. Keith Olbermann went on social media and said to Scott Jennings after Charlie Kirk was killed, "You're next. I have to clean it up. Mother effer." I can't say it on the air. "You're next, mother effer. Keep mugging the camera." And so the one guy that they have, who's a conservative pundit, is the one guy they're threatening to assassinate. But this is the stuff of Xi Jinping. This is the stuff of Vladimir Putin. Where's the freedom of speech? There's no freedom of speech on ABC. There's no freedom of speech on CBS or NBC. Remember, these are broadcast. The airwaves belong to the public. We pay for this. You can't have 50%, 50%, 50-50. You can't even have 90-10. You can't even have 99-1. It's practically uniformly 100% mouthpieces and propagandists for the Democratic Party. And you guys are going on about Jimmy Kimmel? Are you serious? So, to me, Disney is a joke. You buy anything from Disney, you know what you're subsidizing? Hatred against you, your family, and everything you believe in. You watch any show on ABC, give any show any ratings. You know what you're doing? You are subsidizing hatred for you, your family, and everything you believe in. Forgive me. That's why I'm saying, if we're going to get serious, take the gloves off, man. Boycott them. Boycott ABC. Never watch ABC again. Disney, no subscriptions, no movies, no shows. Never watch Disney or go to a Disney cruise or go to Disney World. Don't ever buy a thing from Disney. Boycott them. And maybe they're going to realize, this business model of alienating the majority of the country isn't work. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Dave in New York. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning. Jeff. You should put that on a T-shirt or a coffee mug. Who do I spend my mornings with? Jeff. So, they're in a bubble, okay? He's just talking to his audience. It's not going to increase. Independent affiliates are not going to broadcast him. His contract is up, I think, in January. So, maybe they're just going to let him ride it out till the end of his contract. The good thing is, if he does get bounced, he can't say it was the government or Trump or whatever. It'll be on because of his own actions. As far as the broadcast license, it's pretty much stipulated that it has to be in the public interest. And nothing he says or on any of those networks is in the public interest. So you got that. And you have to boycott Disney, Hulu, if you got a Hulu app, ESPN. You got to boycott that garbage station. It's supposed to be sports, but it's not sports. You have to. Those are the ones you have to get rid of, and you won't be subsidizing Disney. But you pretty much swiped most of my talking points, so that's all I got.
Well, Dave, great minds think alike, my friend. But no, look, I have DirecTV. I do not subscribe to ESPN. We don't have Hulu. I do everything in my power. I don't want to give Disney a dime because it's really an evil corporation. And to me, this is so clear now after this decision. We're talking now about just basic decency. For God's sakes, an innocent man was murdered. And your guy was cheering it. This guy was celebrating it. And then he tried to smear MAGA and Trump supporters with being responsible for it when literally it was the exact opposite. I mean, he was inciting violence. And, you know, you call that comedy? You call that entertainment? I mean, it's honestly, it's beyond stomach turning. And look, you're right. You know, it's the same thing with the Democrats. It was a straight resolution in the House. You condemn political murder, period. No, they shouldn't have murdered Charlie Kirk. And we condemn political murder of any kind, political violence of any kind. 58 Democrats, led by AOC and Ilhan Omar and Jasmine Crockett, voted against the resolution. 38 more voted present. So basically nearly 100 Democrats refused to condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk and political violence in general. I don't know how much more clearer these people can make it. I mean, they hate us. I'm sorry. They don't want to debate us. They want to kill us. And there's no pushback? It's all just, la-da-da, la-da-da. Okay. Okay. Don't come crying to me when someone else gets shot, because it's going to be inevitable. So, no, there has to be a price to be paid. And, you know, and Dave, you made a brilliant point. The FCC, look, I don't want to get into the weeds, but what created the Federal Communications Commission was something called the Federal Communications Act. And the FCC was given power to regulate the public airwaves. And one of the conditions, in fact, it's a key condition to keep getting your license renewed. I'm talking about now about individual stations, TV stations. For you to keep getting your license renewed, the programming that you have must have what's called a public interest standard. So it's not just, you know, obscenities, profanity. Like, for example, that's how they always try to go after me. If you say the F-bomb on the air, they want to fine you, bankrupt you. Or, you know, BS, bull, I can't say the second part. You know, so profanity or obscenity. But it's not just that. It's, you know, is what you're saying in the quote-unquote public interest. Meaning, in the old days, are you giving both points of view across? Are you being fair? In other words, if there's a race between a Republican and a Democrat, is the Democrat view getting the same amount of weight and time as the Republican view, or vice versa? In other words, are you giving a fair representation of the views of your community that you serve? Now, as I just laid out for ABC, I can do each NBC, CBS, same thing. How is The View? How is David Muir? How is Stephanopoulos and Martha Raddatz on Sunday? How is Jimmy Kimmel, which is supposed to be a comedy show? How is this fair? It's 1,000% in favor. Literally, it's not even liberal. It's literally pro-Democrat propaganda. There's no other way to say it. They are the communications arm of the Democratic Party. They're a mouthpiece for the DNC. And their job is to incite hatred against Trump and Trump supporters. That's why there was such a backlash. You're going to blame us now for the murder of Charlie Kirk? You guys created the very climate of hatred that led to his murder. So, where's the freedom of speech? Where's the freedom of expression? If you're a conservative, there is none. None. None on ABC, none on CBS, none on NBC. I could go on and on. Now, those are public airways. Public. That means they're owned by us. So, it's got to be at least 50-50. That's one of the big stories that people are missing. The other big story, I just can't wrap my mind around this. So Sinclair and Nexstar, which carry their ABC affiliated stations, and they carry ABC News, ABC programming. They carry ABC programming on a lot of large and mid-sized markets. They were the ones who came out and said initially, we don't want to carry this guy anymore. He's full of hate. We don't want him. We don't want to listen to this dreck. Now, to their credit, Sinclair has said they're still not going to carry Jimmy Kimmel. They're going to preempt him with what they call news programming. I don't know what, but some kind of a news show or news programming, late night or late night news or whatever it is, evening news, whatever. Nexstar says they're evaluating. So they're kind of putting their finger up in the wind. Should we, shouldn't we? Should we, shouldn't we? Now, here's the problem Disney has. Sinclair is already not going to carry Jimmy Kimmel. That means he's going to be off of major markets. If Nexstar keeps him off as well, you're looking at 60 of some of the biggest markets in the country on a show that already sucks, on a show that's already bad, on a show that already has ratings in the toilet, and that's hemorrhaging, bleeding money. So why would Disney and ABC do this? This is not the second coming of Jimmy Kimmel. There's going to be no revival. His career is not rebounding. And the only thing I can think of is it's political. Hakeem Jeffries called him up. Nancy Pelosi called him up. The dear litter, Barack Obama, called him up and said, listen, you're going to put this guy back on the air. Do you understand? Because he takes a chainsaw to Trump and his supporters, and that's what we want. So Disney now is a political corporation acting on behalf of the Democratic Party. ABC, that's what they are. It's not a broadcast television network. It's a propaganda TV station or TV network on behalf of the Democratic Party. That's what it is. That's what their decision has now shown. And the question now is, will the American public react? And the way to react is you boycott them. And if you boycott them, I'm telling you, they're going to go out of business. We have all the power. We just have to exercise it. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hello, good morning, Jeff. It seems to me that the old-fashioned conservative view of this is if you don't like it, turn the channel. I mean, you've said that a million times yourself. And you keep referring to his original. Tell me the word, the phrase, the sentence that took it from commentary over to celebration.
Play cut 11A.
Some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That was a lie. That was a lie. That was a straight out lie. That's classic misinformation. And it was incendiary and it was inciting. And look, Bill, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. No one has been a bigger supporter of cancel culture than you. You supported all of us conservatives being taken off social media, having our views censored during COVID. You supported Donald Trump being kicked off of Twitter in the middle of a presidential campaign. You supported Tucker Carlson being kicked off the air under pressure from the Biden regime because he showed January 6 footage. You celebrated when Roseanne Barr was kicked off ABC for comments that she made about Valerie Jarrett. So don't lecture me about cancel culture. No one is a bigger supporter of censorship than you. And let me just say one other thing, Bill. And I hope you're listening now very carefully. And I've addressed this with you many times in the past. And you're too cowardly to confront it head on. And so I'm hoping today, in the interests of our country, you will. When you were first diagnosed with cancer, you called this show and you announced it. And even though you vilify me on a regular basis and you vilify this audience, as I told you repeatedly, the audience came to your help, to your rescue. They said, regardless of our political views, we want to help Bill. We want to help pay for his medical expenses, health care, whatever it may be, chemotherapy, because he calls the show and our heart goes out to him. Your response was that I'm a Nazi and that the audience are a bunch of Nazis and white supremacists. And then when I confronted you about that, and if you want, I can play you the tape, I asked you, I said, which Nazi supports me? When have I ever said anything that's pro-Nazi? You said to me, the Nazis think you're a Nazi. And I said, well, which Nazi? And you couldn't name one. It's people like you that got Charlie Kirk killed. It's people like you, God forbid, that may get me killed. Because people like you are inciting hatred. You're dehumanizing us. You're libeling and smearing and lying about us. And I'm sorry, but you have an obligation now to apologize. To me, to this great audience, and to the country. Bill?
Yes, that is a giant diversion.
There you go. There you go. Bill, I'm going to give you a chance to apologize if you want. 617-266-6868. Okay, let's go right back to Bill in Sudbury. He has called me a Nazi repeatedly. He has called this audience a bunch of Nazis. And it's exactly that kind of defamatory, frankly, hateful rhetoric that got Charlie Kirk killed. And so I'm asking Bill in Sudbury now, for the good of the country, to apologize. Let's see what Bill says. Bill, the floor is yours. Go.
Yes, Jeff. One day when we were being very friendly, I shared with you that I had cancer. And you basically used it against me ever since. I have no knowledge of any of that stuff that you repeat over and over again. It lives inside your head. I call your show in the spirit of Charlie Kirk. Okay? I call in the spirit of Charlie Kirk to try to reach across. And what am I greeted with? The same. It's like somebody pulled the string. I called up today and said, talk about Jimmy Kimmel. I said, what happened to the conservative notion of if you don't like it, change the channel? And you go up on this whole tirade and basically just to change the subject.
Well, no, Bill, so you've called me a Nazi. Hold on. Whoa, come on now. You've called me a Nazi many times. You've called the audience Nazis. So don't walk away from that. That's not in the spirit of Charlie Kirk. That's in the spirit of the radical left, which is what you are. As I told you many times before, you're a totalitarian thug. You wanted me off the air many times. You've called for me to be off the air many times. So don't lecture me about cancel culture. Now, as for Jimmy Kimmel, look, ABC and Disney have every right to put him back on the air. They want to put him back on the air. That's their right. I have every right to say I'm not going to watch his show and that I'm going to boycott the parent companies, ABC and Disney. I don't know what's that such a hard point for you to understand. No, Bill, you've wanted me off the air. During COVID, you wanted me off the air. And you have called, I have the tape, don't lie. You have called me a Nazi repeatedly. And you have called this audience a bunch of Nazis and white supremacists repeatedly. And that kind of incendiary, defamatory, frankly disgusting language is a form, it's violent rhetoric. It led to Charlie Kirk being murdered. And if you want to know the truth, it has put a target on my back from people like you, not just you, but people like you. Because I get about 10 to 15 death threats a week. Because people are literally convinced that I'm a Nazi. Because of what people like you say. And yet, look, even now, even after the audience tried to do everything they could for you, to raise money for you, to help you, even now, you don't have the basic human decency to say, I was wrong. I was wrong. Why can't you say that? You realize Nazis would want to kill you. Nazis would not want to pay for your medical expenses. Can you get that through your brain?
I have never called you Nazis. I have never, ever called. I have pointed out many times that the Nazis are indeed standing shoulder to shoulder with you. And
okay, which Nazis? Which Nazis are standing shoulder to shoulder with me?
Think Nick Fuentes has benefited from Charlie Kirk's death?
Forget about Nick Fuentes. What does Nick Fuentes have to do with me? Forget about Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes. Has Nick Fuentes ever said a good word about me? No. So what Nazis have praised me? What Nazis have stood shoulder to shoulder to me? You're defaming me. You're lying.
You don't accept that the Nazis are on your side.
The Nazis are not on my side.
Really?
They hate me.
The
yes.
Boys,
yes.
The skinheads, all those people.
All those skinheads. I don't have one skinhead. In fact, why don't you show me here? You just proved my point. You are calling me a Nazi.
No,
or
I'm
a Nazi
not.
fellow traveler. Listen to me. Why don't you show me the evidence? Show me the evidence. You're the one making the accusation, so prove it. Give me one name. One Nazi that has said a good thing about me. One. Just one. Go.
I am grateful for any outpouring of goodwill around my cancer.
No. Forget your cancer. No. You just said that Nazis stand shoulder to shoulder with me. Okay, fine. Name me one Nazi. Just name me one. Who has stood shoulder to shoulder with me? Go.
Just did, and you said, oh, I don't care about him. Nick Fuentes.
When did Nick Fuentes say a good thing about me? He's never said a thing about me.
He had lunch with your guy. I don't hear you complaining.
Whoa. He had lunch with my guy? That's your evidence? What, he had lunch with Charlie Kirk? Or what lunch with Donald Trump? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
President. He's the first Nazi to have lunch with the president in 100 years.
Yeah, okay. Well, Trump didn't know who he was when he sat down with him, but what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with me? What did Nick Fuentes ever say about me?
Why do you think I call your show, Jeff? Why?
Well, you call me Nazi. Well, no, because so you can call me a Nazi or a Nazi fellow traveler. You know, Bill, I got to tell you. Listen to me, man. You're a liar. You're a smear merchant. You're a hater. You really are. And now you call me the worst thing possible. When you call me a Nazi fellow traveler, you are literally putting a target on my back. You are hoping that some crazed leftist will blow my brains out and shoot me in the neck the way they did Charlie Kirk. And when I call you out and say, name me one Nazi that supports me. In fact, they all hate me. You can't come up with that name. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. This is from 508. Jeff, Erica Kirk forgave the murderer of her husband. I think you can forgive Bill in Sudbury. It's not a question of, I get you, 508. Look, really, God is my witness. I have no hate in my heart for Bill in Sudbury at all. If anything, I feel sorry for him. But he needs to be put in his place, and every leftist now needs to be put in their place. Because that kind of violent rhetoric that they're spewing, this kind of defamation, this demonization, these lies, that I'm a Nazi, that you're all Nazis, has put a target on all of our backs. That's the true meaning of the Charlie Kirk assassination. That's why you're seeing the rise in left-wing terrorism, because these people are being conditioned and brainwashed into believing that a conservative is a Nazi, that a Trump supporter is a fascist, and quote-unquote an existential threat to democracy. So if these people are not slapped down and put in their place, if we don't speak up and stand out, speak out and stand up against them, this culture of hatred, this culture of left-wing terror and left-wing violence is only going to get worse. And look, I want to lay it out to all of you. Please stop what you're doing. Please, I'm begging you. And just for 60 seconds, and I want to go right back to the phone lines. Hitler's minister of propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, to justify the atrocities committed by the Nazi regime. Okay, those were the real Nazis, not this imaginary stuff. He said we had to invent the propaganda technique called the big lie. And the big lie, at its essence, was say something that's blatantly false, but just keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And eventually it will be accepted as the truth. And once that happens, you can do anything. The big lie of our time that led to Kirk's murder and assassination is that conservatives are Nazis. That you, Kuhner country, are Nazis. That Trump is the second coming of Hitler. That I'm a Nazi, you're a Nazi. That we're fascists. That somehow we are a threat or are opposed to quote-unquote democracy. When literally it's the exact opposite. For starters, Nick Fuentes can't stand my guts because I'm pro-Israel. And too, quote, pro-Jewish. The Nazis hate me for my stand on Israel alone. Never mind the fact that I condemn racism in all its forms, white supremacy in all its forms, and that I am not a collectivist and I'm not a socialist. The essence of Nazism was National Socialism. Nazism is a movement of the left and not of the right. I am a man of the right. So, to believe in property rights, to believe in freedom of speech, to believe in the rule of law, to believe in constitutional government, to believe in borders, to believe in the free market, in individual freedom and individual liberty, is literally the antithesis of fascism and Nazism. These people are so stupid, they don't even know what Nazism is. But they throw it around like a weapon because they're there to incite, not to debate, not to have an open civil discourse, but to incite hatred and to eventually incite violence. And someone like Bill in Sudbury, and he wasn't the only one, there were others, have repeatedly asked that I be taken off the air. And I just want to set the record straight. The Boston Globe, because it sets up this brilliant message that I got. The Boston Globe has asked for me to be taken off the air for years. The Boston Herald, off the air for years. The Massachusetts Democratic Party, the Massachusetts Republican National Committee, the Mass GOP Committee, led by Amy Carnevale, they have asked for me, they've asked the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, to take me off the air. Because they don't like my speech. It's too much truth. So they have to kill the truth tellers. And they will pounce on any little mistake, any little error, any little misstep. So they can lie and lie and lie and smear and smear and smear and incite and incite and incite. And literally, I'm talking, they're running pay-to-play operations, okay? It is illegal. It is corrupt. It is the most unethical thing you can do in journalism. But they want to chase me off the air. And then they call up and they lecture me about cancel culture. And let me tell you what's keeping me alive. You want to know the truth? Like I'm in the confessional, let me tell all of you the truth. Unlike Jimmy Kimmel, if I had his ratings, I'm gone. If I lost the money that this guy loses, I'm gone, man. I'm gone. I don't have a political backer. I don't have a party backing me. It's because of the ratings of this show and the fact that I make the company money. We're not in the red, we're in the black. I'm not saying this to boast. I'm being honest with you. That's the only thing keeping me afloat. They're coming after me almost every day from all angles. And they're going to lecture me about cancel culture. Here, let me just put it to you straight out. If I said what Jimmy Kimmel said, I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm gone. Now, I'm regulated by the FCC, just like ABC is. So tell me, how come Jimmy can keep his job, but I can't? In fact, let me read to you the message. It's from Mark. It's an absolutely brilliant message. He's completely right. Please listen to this. Quote, Jeff, this makes me sick to my stomach because you know, if you were to report on your show, listen to this, that Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or the Democratic Party for that matter ordered the assassination of Charlie Kirk, not only would your show be unplugged forever, you would be fined God knows how much money, you would be fired, and you probably would never get a job again. Tell me I'm wrong, Jeff. No, you're not. You're not 100. You're 1,000% correct. If I made up a story about who killed Charlie Kirk, Obama did it, Hillary did it, the Democrats, they ordered it, I am off the air. I am fired. 617-266-6868. Okay. So just to put an exclamation point, and I promise I want to go right to the phone lines. Say, to Mark's point on Messenger, say I said Obama killed him. Okay? Obama was responsible, or Obama killed Charlie Kirk, or Hillary Clinton, or the Democratic Party, or whatever. Okay? This was a Democratic Party hit job. Now, not only am I taking, this is now the FCC. So you would have the Democratic Party, the Mass Democratic Party would call for my scalp. The Massachusetts Republican Committee, led by Amy Carnevale, the Rhinos, they'd be calling for my scalp. The Boston Herald would be calling for my scalp. The Boston Globe would be calling for my scalp. And I know behind the scenes, there are certain radio talk show hosts who've been itching, because they're jealous of my success, who they've been itching to take me off the air for years. And they would be going for my scalp. Okay? And the FCC would get involved immediately. Because they'd say, well, that's a lie. You lied. It's misinformation. And the FCC would force me off the air. And I would lose my job. I would be fired. And I would be fined millions of dollars. And probably my career would be finished. I mean, ruined. I'm done. I'm done. Now, and by the way, and I'll tell you exactly what they would say. I'll tell you the conversation. You have to be, quote unquote, responsible for your words. This is not an internet show. This is not some podcast. These are the public airwaves. You have to be held accountable for what you say. This is in the quote-unquote, and they're citing the Federal Communications Act. This is in the, quote, public interest that you're being regulated in. We can't allow this kind of obvious misinformation, disinformation, and this could possibly lead to incitement. Someone may want to kill Obama or Hillary or kill a Democrat in retaliation for what you said, believing what you said was the truth. And I am done. Put a fork in me. I'm done. Now, outside of Obama, Hillary, okay, he said MAGA got Charlie Kirk killed. In fact, what he said was this kid, meaning Tyler Robinson, was part of the MAGA gang. He was a MAGA supporter, which is a lie. And it was full of incitement. Look at this. MAGA's killing people, even their own. And by the way, they kept chuckling and laughing, and I don't want to continue to play the rest of the joke where he's going on about, look at Trump, look how he's grieving, they're all laughing. He's grieving like a 4-year-old loses his goldfish. The man is dead, for God's sake. Now, I want to ask all of you, how come I get fired and he doesn't? I'm governed by the FCC. He's governed by the FCC. So how come I get fired, he doesn't get fired? How come the Democrats and the Republican establishment, those scumbags, they can call for my scalp day in and day out and literally pounce on any little word that I say, any little inaccuracy, and I'm gone. But they can lie and lie and lie and lie, starting with the Russia collusion hoax. That was a complete lie. And they did it again and again and again and again. No one's held accountable. As I mentioned earlier. And by the way, they wanted me off. By the way, Bill in Sudbury in particular, he should be taken off the air when I opposed the COVID jab, saying they're lying to us. There are adverse effects. They are misrepresenting this so-called jab. It's not 100% safe and effective. It's not. And they wanted me off the air for telling the truth. So when you tell the truth, they want you off the air. Never mind when you engage in a blatant falsehood. And then you've got Ted Cruz. I'm sorry, this sticks in my craw. After everything we conservatives endure on a daily basis, and everything we've suffered now for the last God knows how many years, and it's Rand Paul and Ted Cruz who are carrying water now for Jimmy Kimmel? Oh, he's a victim of cancel culture. This is so wrong. Oh, this violates the First Amendment. What, he's got a right now to his own show? Forever? Like what, Disney can't get rid of this guy? Or ABC can't get rid of this guy? After he's losing them, God knows, they've lost, I don't know how many millions of dollars on this guy. So what I'm just saying to you is this. I'm tired of the double standards. I'm tired of the hypocrisy, the fake self-righteousness. You don't care about freedom of speech. You don't care about the First Amendment. Suddenly now, you who invented cancel culture, who promoted it, who enforced it like a bunch of thugs, now all of a sudden, this is cancel culture. No, it's consequence culture. There are consequences to your words, especially when you lie and you incite violence. Now, what I'm using myself as an example. I'm telling you, it's the same double standard they apply to you. To every conservative, every MAGA, every Trump supporter in this country. So the question is, how long are we willing to put up being third-class citizens in our own country? How come liberals and progressives and Democrats and leftists can get away literally with murder, with rioting, with looting, with maiming, with rampaging, with censoring, with committing crime after crime after crime after crime? But they get us for jaywalking. And we're just going to keep... There's a point where I have to ask people, it's a question of our self-respect. This decision to reinstate Jimmy Kimmel, to Charlie Kirk, to his wife, to his children, and to us. That's what this is. They're just spitting on us. Boycott him. Well, they have the right to put him back. Listen, you want to put him back, put him back. But I'm telling you now, Disney's going to lose money and ABC's going to lose money. Because if middle America says we're not going to watch ever ABC News again or not buy a single thing from Disney, they're done. They're done. I'm telling you, they're done. They're not done today or tomorrow. It takes time for this to kick in. But they're done. They're going to go bankrupt. 617. In other words, it's time to fight back. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Okay, Mike. Maestro Mike, who do you want me to go to? Frank in Bedford. Thanks for holding, Frank, and welcome. Did we lose Frank? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Frank. John in Peabody. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, John.
I feel guilty saying this because I call those people communists every day, and I'm the anti-bill. I have no problem telling these people they're communists, they're socialists, but I'm not calling for anybody to get killed. And that's just, I think when people start killing people, there's something internally wrong with them that they can't talk and discuss things.
Well, look, let me just, John, let me just say this. I promise I'll give you all the time in the world. They're called communists because they are communists. That's the difference. You're not a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi. They are communists. They are socialists. They are radical leftists. They are collectivists, whatever term you want to use. In other words, if you're an innocent man and I'm calling you a murderer, that's defamation. That's smearing. That's libel. If you're a murderer and I call you a murderer, then I'm just calling you by what you are. So it's not a question of tone down the rhetoric. No. The Democratic Party, for all intents and purposes, has become, whatever you want to call it, the Communist Party, the Socialist Party of America. There's no doubt. Look at their policies, their platform, what they advocate, who their leaders are. What do we have to do with Adolf Hitler? What does Trump have to do with Adolf Hitler? What do we have to do with Benito Mussolini or Vladimir Putin or the KKK? Or they're literally making stuff up about us. And that's what they're doing with Charlie Kirk. To fit him into their narrative, they have to invent and fabricate things that he said that he never said. So that's what I told Bill in Sudbury. Look, if I'm a Nazi, call me a Nazi. But the Nazis wiped out half my family. I hate the Nazis with every fiber in my being. Everything I stand for is the antithesis of Nazism. I believe in Americanism. I believe in the Founding Fathers, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, which is literally the exact opposite of what Hitler and the Nazis preached. When they call us Nazis, it's not to accurately describe us. It's to defame us, and this is the dangerous part, to incite hatred against us. And that led now to a young man losing his life. And it led to a wedding party being slaughtered. And it's led now to radical left-wing acts of terrorism all over the country. Antifa stands for, quote, anti-fascism. Who put the idea in their heads that there's a fascist problem in America? And when you ask them, who's the fascist? They say conservatives. It's the big lie. So how did fascism become conservatism? How did conservatism become fascism? Through propaganda and through lies. And the lies now are getting people killed. Go ahead.
You're right on. That's the whole problem. We like you said, we're handcuffed. We're told we go by the rules because we have jobs to lose. We have houses to keep payments on, kids to put in school, and we have to be like we're walking on glass, as my wife likes to say. We got to walk on glass. That's what they're trying to make us do. It's like Tokyo Rose we're up against.
Well, John, let me ask you this. I'm just curious, maybe it's just me, I'd love to hear from you and from everybody. Do you feel increasingly like there's a target on your back? In other words, if you put a Trump t-shirt on or, a Trump 47 or a MAGA 47, a baseball cap or whatever, if people know you're a Trump supporter, are you looking over your shoulder and saying, are they going to vandalize my car? Are they going to assault me, assault my wife? Like, are you afraid increasingly that your political beliefs are now a potential target for people to go after you?
I have all that stuff. I have the T-shirts, the hats, the signs, and I get the dirtiest looks sometimes, and then I get the thumbs up sometimes. But you're right. I do feel like I have family members that hate me. It's kind of funny. I'm a retired firefighter. I go to dinner with these guys, and I got to argue with these guys over everything, and it's starting to get kind of in your face a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I think times are just getting a little bit too rough right now, and people don't know how to handle it.
I agree. I completely agree, John. Look, the left has to calm down, and that's it. And I'm hoping now that this sad murder of Kirk and the tragic consequences, hopefully some people are going to say, you know what? Let's tone it down. Let's tone it down. You know, John in Peabody is not some fascist. He's not some threat to democracy. And notice, look how belligerent they are and aggressive they are, John. And we have the presidency. And we have both houses of Congress. And we have the Department of Justice and the FBI. What would things be, how would things be like for us if we didn't have any of this? We have all the power. And look how they're coming after us. John, thank you very much for that call. Maria in Ludlow. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good. How are you, Maria?
I'm doing well, thank you. First of all, I think Bill in Sudbury needs 0.5 milligrams of Ativan to calm himself down a little bit. Okay? He needs to calm down, relax, take a breather. He should call his doctor. And I am so sick and tired. I have come to the conclusion that I am so sick and tired of being called a fascist, a racist, a Nazi. I don't know anything. I should not be the way I am because I'm an immigrant. And my response to them now is like, listen, I am an immigrant, but I am a U.S. citizen for more than 20 years now. And you are a threat to democracy, people like you. And I said, first of all, you are an American-born citizen from here. And you are so uneducated in the Constitution of the United States. America is not my first country. And I know that America is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. Let's get that off the bat. But now I throw it back at them. When they say, oh, you're a fascist. And I said, okay, let's set the tone. Let's dance tonight. You guys, you are an expert. You guys are great teachers and saying that I'm a fascist, I'm a racist, I'm this, and I throw it at them. I said, so you're a great teacher, so it makes you a fascist. It makes you a racist. Makes you a bigot. Everything you're calling me, you are teaching me to be one so I can I don't know how to say the word, recuperate. Say it back to them. And they get all besides themselves. I set the tone. I said, let's dance. What's the tune on tonight, Cupcake? Let's go, Buttercup. Are we dancing tonight with tune? Are we doing tango? Because I can do this all night long. I got a big cup of coffee with double shot of espresso in here. Anything you're going to teach me, I'm going to say it back to you. You're an expert fascist. You're an expert racist. You're an expert Nazi. Let's go. Teach me your ways. I cannot say it right exactly the way you say it because I know my Portuguese accent gets in the way, but I'm learning. Keep teaching me because I'm going to keep saying it back to you. They get besides themselves. How dare you call me that? I said, I'm just shooting back to you. I'm teaching you in Portuguese way, the way you're teaching me in your English way. I'm just saying it back to you. They get all besides themselves. I said, You don't like it, do you? You get all offended. Oh, my God, my little cupcake. Is it offensive? I said, then don't call me that. You're going to continue to do so? I will come in every night to work, and I'm going to set that tone. What dance are we dancing on tonight? Tell me. I'll put it on. Do you want a Portuguese song? I can put it on for you. No problem. Let's do this. I can do this all night long. I'm just so sick and tired of it. Now I just throw it back at them. Whatever they call me, I throw it back at them. I said, you're an expert. You saying those words to me, you're teaching me, so I can say it right back to you. You're a great teacher. Keep going. I am done. I am done.
Well, you're right. No, Maria, you're completely right. Look, there's a zombie-like quality to all this. They just keep mindlessly repeating fascist, Nazi, racist, bigot, white supremacist, wash, rinse, repeat, same thing over and over. And they don't even know the meaning of the words they're saying. They just throw them at you. And they think somehow like that they've paralyzed us or silenced us. And we just look at them, and honestly, our reaction now is, you guys are a bunch of morons. Like, after Charlie Kirk's death, really, there's nothing for us to talk about with them. If borders and freedom and the Constitution equals fascism, then you're an idiot, and I just forget it. You're beyond reason. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Will ABC renew Jimmy Kimmel's current contract? So I'm just going by media reports, Wall Street Journal, New York Post, Financial Times. They say that their sources are claiming, this is within Disney and ABC, that Kimmel's contract is going to expire, unless it's renewed, in May of 2026. So basically he's got, 5, 6, 7 more months left. But May 2026 is when his contract is supposed to expire. And so the question is, do you think ABC will renew Kimmel's contract? A, yeah, not should they, will they? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. Again, I was very active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER, at the Kuhner Report. I think they will renew. I know most of you disagree so far. You look at the poll results, 66.2% no, 33.8% yes, basically 2-1. 2/3 of you believe he will not be renewed. 1/3 of you believe he will be. To me, I can't read the evidence any other way. Kimmel is now running ABC. And the radical left is running Disney. And the Democratic Party is running Disney. And so when they made that phone call, or several calls, to Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, and the top people at ABC, they go, no, you put him back on. I don't care how much disinformation, how much this guy lies, how much hatred this guy spews. I don't care how much propaganda, the anti-Trump bashing, the vitriol that this guy spews out night after night. I don't care how low his ratings go. You're not taking this guy off the air. Okay? This is no longer ABC News. Or ABC, forgive me. This is not ABC. This is the KBC. This is the Kimmel Broadcasting Corporation. He now calls the shots because he's our mouthpiece. Agree, disagree? Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I want to say something. You know who's backing them right now? It's all the Marvel comic characters are backing Kimmel. They're for him. They said he has the right to say what he said, right? So here's the thing. I'm going to boycott Disney because they have Marvel and all the main characters, the guy that plays Iron Man, the guy that plays Captain America, they've been voices for him, going with him. They don't care about Kirk. That's why I'm going to boycott. I'm not going to buy anything. I'm not going to go to any of their movies because Marvel is now part of Disney and they're for Kimmel.
You know, Jimmy, that is a great point. And you're right, like The Amazing Spider-Man, The Avengers, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, I could go on and on. These movies, the X-Men, as far as X-Men in particular. By the way, I used to love X-Men when I was young. Collected the comics, read the comics, also loved Captain America, obviously. But Thor, another one, loved Thor. They make a lot of money off those movies. Those Marvel movies and those shows that they have on Disney, they make a ton of cash. So you're completely right. If this is where Marvel wants to go, if they want to put all their eggs in that basket, you know what they say? You go woke, you go broke. And I'm with you, Jimmy. I'm not going to watch another Marvel movie. And that's what I mean. Like, once we start to enforce this through ourselves, not through the government, but just as Americans, we vote with our dollars and say, okay, if Disney wants to play, if they want to spit in our face and insult us on a most profound, fundamental level, then that's fine. You're never going to get another buck from us again. Disney will collapse and ABC will collapse. Jimmy, are you shocked? I mean, Stan Lee's got to be spinning in his grave, the creator of so many of these Marvel comic books and comic characters. Are you shocked that Marvel would destroy their brand by siding with someone as radioactive and as vile as Jimmy Kimmel?
Jeff, I want to say one more thing because you were talking and you're the voice because you're up there with Savage, you're up there with John B. Wells. I remember listening to you when you first started off when you had Brittany and Cooksey working for you. That's going way, way back when you first started out. And like you were saying, this fool that's calling you a Nazi, right? This idiot Bill from Sudbury, you're the voice of America right now. You're one of the top guys with, like I said, Savage and John B. Wells. And that fool to say that, I picture him. He needs to see a psychiatrist. He probably has his room with Nazi SWAT stickers and he salutes Hitler. And I'm going to shock you with this. He needs to see a psychiatrist. I bet you 10 to 1 he hasn't been out with a woman. This guy's sleeping with a Harris.
Jimmy, thank you very much for those kind words. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to continue to take your calls on Jimmy Kimmel now being reinstated at ABC News. I promise. However, and this is kind of tied to the issue of censorship that we've been talking about really all morning. Those that criticized the medical establishment, and in particular, we've talked about the COVID jab, and how they deliberately censored countless people for saying that our government lied to us, that they oversold it, that they covered up, that it had adverse effects for some people who took it, and how these people were deliberately suppressed, canceled, and censored. Well, Trump yesterday held a major press conference on autism yesterday. And you probably know it's one of the biggest stories in the world. According now to a huge study from Harvard University, researchers now are finding a potential link between pregnant mothers who take a lot of Tylenol in particular and possible links to higher rates of autism. Listen now to President Trump. He was joined by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., saying that we are now looking to confront this crisis of autism. Over the last 25 to 30 years, autism rates in the United States have skyrocketed. And many people are baffled what is causing this explosion in higher rates of autism. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now says a lot of the scientific literature is pointing to vaccines, and not all vaccines, but the increased number of vaccines, and that they're so concentrated and giving them in immense doses to very young babies at such a young age, that they believe now there's a possible link to that, and of course as well to the use of Tylenol by pregnant women, and maybe that's also got something to do with it. Listen now to President Trump. Roll cut 1, Mike.
Today we're delighted to be joined by America's top medical and public health professionals as we announce historic steps to confront the crisis of autism. Horrible, horrible crisis. I want to thank the man who brought this issue to the forefront of American politics along with me. And we actually met in my office, is it like 20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York. I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from. And he and I don't know, the word got out, and I wouldn't say that people were very understanding of where we were, but it's turning out that we understood a lot more than a lot of people who studied it, we think. And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew.
Meaning the medical establishment. And that's a point that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has made repeatedly, that there were numerous studies. As I mentioned, there's a major Harvard study now that show that there are possible links between the use of Tylenol for pregnant women and even now these very high concentrations of vaccines and higher rates of autism. And they deliberately suppressed it. They deliberately covered it up. And Kennedy says this has got to stop. You're endangering the health of women, number one, obviously. And number two, you're needlessly inflicting autism upon children, otherwise who wouldn't have it. Now, listen to Trump. This, he's going on, they're going to clarify it later, but he's talking about the Amish. The Amish do not take any vaccines, and they don't take anything like Tylenol or acetaminophen, or however you pronounce it. They don't take any of that. And he says the researchers are saying, I don't think they found almost a single case of autism. So there's something going on in the Amish community. They are doing something that is leading to extremely low rates of autism, especially when you compare it to the general population in the United States. Roll cut 2, Mike.
Since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism.
And then, by the way, he misspoke. He meant you go from 2,000 cases to 10,000 cases to 12,000 cases. So what he's saying is the numbers, it's not just that they're ticking upwards. You know, you say, well, you know, okay, you know, we don't know exactly what's causing it, but it's not a crisis. No, it is surging. It's an explosion in autism rates over the last 25, 30 years. Now, he then looks to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he says, right, am I correct here, Mr. Secretary? Right? The Amish, they have literally, was it no rates of autism, like no cases, or extremely low? Roll cut 2A, Mike.
Is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism.
Or whatever, very low, okay? Like very limited, very low, especially compared to the rest of the population. Now, point number one, look at the censorship that was applied against any of those who challenged the medical establishment. Autism rates are surging. I mean, they're going through the roof. You've had mothers complaining for decades. You've had families complaining for decades. Doctors, researchers trying to ask questions, trying to do more scientific research. What is causing this? What is driving this? And they were shut down. Okay, super quick. So, Trump holds a major press conference yesterday. By the way, I've never seen a reaction like that. Well, I have, but it's rare. The media went berserk. I mean berserk. The Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Boston Globe, CNN, MSNBC. The Democrats were losing their minds yesterday. It was on cable television. He's going to get women killed. He's telling them not to take Tylenol when they're pregnant. Oh, my God. He's blaming vaccines for autism. He's crazy. He's going to get children killed. They're not going to be vaccinated. The hysteria, the panic porn, the fear-mongering, the exaggeration, again, the half-truths, the lies, the distortion. So anyway, all Trump said and all Robert F. Kennedy said, and again, what the media is leaving out is citing a major study from Harvard and other institutions saying, no, there's quite a bit of literature now developing out there that there may be a possible link between pregnant women who take Tylenol, especially a lot of Tylenol, and some of these higher rates of autism. So we recommend that you don't take it. Tylenol is, it's on the counter. You can buy it anywhere. Pharmacy, grocery store. So it's not as if they're going to prevent pregnant women from taking Tylenol. And even then, and I'll play you the cut, Trump says, hey, look, if you got a really high fever and your doctor says he's okay, of course, take Tylenol. We're not saying, don't take it ever. We're just saying be aware. There's some new scientific evidence out there that the medical establishment has been trying to censor and suppress for years, that's saying there could be some kind of a causal link. Now, I'm sorry, why can't you say that? Especially if the research backs it up. Why can't you say that if some of the top experts in the world are saying, no, we think there could be some evidence here? And again, it goes back to the COVID jab. Why can't women make the best informed decisions for their own body and that of the child that they're carrying? My body, my choice. What is it? It's only for abortion? That's it? Listen now to President Trump on autism and the FDA. Roll cut 3, a mic.
First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
Basically saying, have a doctor. Anyway, play 3A, where he says, look, we're not saying don't take it. Obviously, you got a high fever or a dangerously high fever and your doctor's okay with it. But we're just recommending you shouldn't take it. It's up to you. We make the recommendations. You decide what's best for you and your baby. Roll cut 3A, Mike.
For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think.
Now, not to beat a dead horse, but I have to say this. I remember when I was growing up. Now, again, this is just me. Maybe your parents were different. You know, my parents actively discouraged that I use aspirin or Tylenol or whatever. Now, if I really needed it, if I had a really high fever or if there was really a lot of pain, whatever, I twisted my ankle or, whatever. Okay, I mean, you really got to take it. But generally, my parents had a philosophy, unless you absolutely need it, don't take it. Why? A, this is what they told me. It lowers your immune level. Like, why would you take something that your own body can fight off on its own? And B, you generally don't want to get into the habit of just popping things in your mouth whenever something is wrong. So what I'm just saying is, from my and most of my friends were the same. Their parents were the same. In other words, this go to the pill for everything. Pop something in your mouth for everything, no matter what. This attitude was, if you don't really need to take it, absolutely need to take it, don't take it. Now, suddenly something has changed in our culture because now you got to pop aspirin like it's, a cough drop or, a stick of gum or Tylenol or ibuprofen or whatever it is. I mean, the commercials they run on television. I mean, anything. Oh, your back hurts? Okay, pop an Advil. Oh, you got some knee pain? Pop an Advil. Oh, you got a slight fever? Well, I'll take a Tylenol. And I'm looking at all this and I'm like, taking all of this stuff in the high volumes, just how much people take and just, some people, they want like a daily regimen. What, you're going to take this every day? Now, if your doctor's telling you to do it, that's something else. Like here, with my busted up ribs. They had me on very strong doses of ibuprofen and some muscle relaxants. It worked. Oh, and I needed it initially. I still have a whole bottle full of ibuprofen capsules. These big, 800 milligrams. I mean, they could take the pain away from an elephant. I stopped taking it as soon as I could. Now, I was still suffering, pain and discomfort, not like it was before. Why? I'm like, if I don't need to take it, I don't want to take it. Well, for whatever reason, it's going to burn my liver or I just don't want to take it unless I absolutely have to. To me, it's just common sense. Now, Trump's a man from a different era, different time, different way of thinking. Listen to him. Basically saying, especially Tylenol and women who are pregnant, if you don't need to take it, don't take it. Roll cut 3B. Mike.
In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it, and you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy you shouldn't take it during the entire, and you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally you don't take it at all, but if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it.
Now, very quickly, he was viciously attacked. I mean, and they're still attacking him now to this day. And so one of these moonbat reporters, again, that Trump is anti-science and he's going to get women killed and on, and all the hysteria. And so one of them says, well, how come we haven't heard more about this supposed link between autism and Tylenol, acetaminophen, however how you pronounce it? And listen to Trump's response, and I think he's right. Roll cut 6, Mike.
Why do you think we haven't heard more previously about the tie to autism and acetaminophen?
Nobody knows. I don't know. Not only that, when you say it, you get attacked. I was saying something similar, not as strongly, because now facts are on our side. But I was saying it with Bobby 20 years ago, and I was attacked. I said, whoa, what was that all about? I had no idea. You get attacked. I don't know.
Well, because you're going up against Big Pharma. That's why. There's billions of dollars in this pain reliever, amphetamine and ibuprofen. And, I mean, this is big money. Huge money. Huge money. Huge. That's why you're being attacked. And just look at ABC, look at CBS, look at NBC, look at their evening news, look at the ads. Look at the ads. It's Advil, it's Tylenol, it's aspirin, I know they're not all acetaminophen, whatever you pronounce, how you say it, acetaminophen. I understand. Simon's ibuprofen. I get it. They're different. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, pain reliever, fever reducer, aspirin. This is big money, man. This is big money. Anything bothers you, take a pill. That's the solution to everything. Just take a pill. And the vaccine business, that's huge. So listen now to Trump. This was him yesterday saying, you know what? And maybe take it easy on the vaccines when it comes to your babies after they're born. Yes, give them all the vaccines that they need, but don't compress it all on these massive needles where they're getting, by the way, now they're getting 26 more shots. Every baby gets 26 more shots. 26 more than babies did just 15 to 20 years ago. Do you know now that the average baby, 60 to 70 shots? Like, what the hell are you pumping into these kids? And you're shocked that there's now literature and science and studies saying, yeah, there could be a link now between higher autism rates and all of these massive vaccinations. Again, I'm not saying don't vaccinate your children. My children are fully vaccinated, except then they didn't have the extra 26 shots because they were born, 2010 and 2012. But, my kids are fully vaccinated. But you look at the last 10 years in particular, holy mackerel. How much more do you want to pump up a baby with? Seriously. Listen now to Trump. Roll cut 5, Mike.
But I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses.
Yes.
And you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in.
He's completely right. So he's, spread it out. That's another thing. Why does it, you got babies being shot up like a day after they're born. What's the rush, man? Spread it out. Like I said, hepatitis B. Why does a baby even need the hepatitis B shot? And it expires within 6 or 7 years. So unless the mother has hepatitis B, I'm just going to give you an example. So that means, the baby can then contract it. But every hospital, if a woman is pregnant, they test for hepatitis B. So she doesn't need the shot. If she's not carrying the virus, there is no need for the baby to get a hepatitis B shot. None. It wears off after 6 or 7 years. And you can only contract a hepatitis B through unprotected sex or sharing needles. And as I said, unless you're Hunter Biden, you don't need the hepatitis B shot. because you're a little baby. So you're not going to have unprotected sex, and you're not going to be sharing a needle with some Russian hooker. So it's a completely unnecessary vaccine at that age. Completely. And after 6, 7 years, it wears off. You got to do it again. So here's a blatant example of an unnecessary vaccine. And, you know, we're up to 80 now. Soon, I'm telling you, they're going to be at 100. And what Bobby Kennedy is asking, and he's right, and Trump is asking, and he's right, and increasingly now leading experts and researchers in medicine, in study after study, are now asking, is when you give babies this many shots in concentrated doses, is this now a reason, a possible link to these higher rates of autism that we have now seen over the last 20 years? One more cut. I want to go to the phone lines. Listen now. This is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He then began to speak, saying, it's not just me. Listen to the mothers. Listen to the women. Listen to the pregnant mothers. They're complaining, saying, I can feel it. I can sense it. There's something wrong. Roll cut 9, Mike.
Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. Some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades.
Bingo. He's completely right. He's completely right. Completely right. Completely right. And of course, I got the left even more angry. Because that's like, you know, me too. We're talking about women that were raped. You're talking about mothers who had children that have autism. How dare you compare the two? Listen to women. Don't silence them. Don't censor them. Don't cancel them. And when you have that many women, and there are so many, who are insisting these vaccines are not good for my baby in this many doses, in this kind of concentration, I can see the change in my child. It had a bad side effect. Listen to them. Instead, Big Pharma wants to marginalize and silence them. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Jennifer in Ipswich. Thanks for holding, Jennifer, and welcome.
Yes. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jennifer.
I just wanted to say that I don't think it's the Tylenol, because my daughter is 5 and she has autism. And when I was pregnant, I didn't take anything whatsoever because I was, I'd fear that I'd miscarry. So I didn't take anything. However, vaccinations, I was looking last night, like on the little Patient Gateway app, and I saw that she already had like 26 vaccines so far, and then like 30 if I'm counting the flu shot. So either it's got to be vaccines.
Well, Jennifer, I mean, how do if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. I promise I won't be offended. Is there any history of autism in your family or in your husband or your partner's family?
No autism in our family at all. So it's like, where did this come from? Let
me ask you this. The left and the media are saying that this is causing panic, that Trump is being irresponsible, RFK Jr. is being irresponsible, to even suggest that there could be a link between all of these vaccines and higher rates of autism, or some pregnant women taking a lot of Tylenol and higher rates of autism. Do you feel that they're instilling panic in the public? Or do you feel that they're willing to open up a conversation that we need to have?
I think it's a conversation that we need to have. Most of it, I think, would be like common sense, like don't take stuff when you're pregnant, and just be, I guess, I don't know, just watch what you're giving your kids for vaccinations. I mean, I'm not going to give my daughter the COVID vaccine, but I am going to vaccinate her. Like Trump said, just don't give everything all in one shot.
Yeah, that's the key to me. I'm so with you, Jennifer. Space it out. That's also, to me, common sense. Like almost on everything, to be honest. Moderation in all things. That's an ancient Greek. That's ancient Greek wisdom. I mean, it literally goes back to Socrates and Plato and Aristotle. And it's been good for thousands of years. Why should we stop now? And, and this has nothing to do now with pregnant women, okay? And again, if your doctor is telling you to do it, that's something else. But again, I'm watching TV. It's unbelievable. Like, is everybody just popping Advil like it's candy? Like my elbow hurts. Okay, take an Advil or whatever, Tylenol, whatever it is, aspirin. Oh my God, I got a little bit of a headache. Okay, well, let me pop a Tylenol. Whatever. Ooh, I got a little bit of lower back pain there. Let me just pop pop some ibuprofen. And I'm like, well, yeah, if it's real pain, obviously. But I mean, come on, man. Pain is part of life. 617-266-6868 is the number. I just want to state, to me now, this is anecdotal. This is purely subjective. I'm not claiming that I have some kind of insider knowledge or I'm using scientific data for this. I can just speak for myself. Growing up in the 1970s and the 1980s, yeah, look, I ran into a lot of people. I went to a very big school. I went to a very big university. I got around. Yeah, there was the occasional person here or there that was autistic, or you'd see some parents with an autistic child. But it was very rare. Very rare. I don't want to say unheard of because you saw some, but it was very rare. I'm telling you, just through my own eyes, in the last 20 years, a lot more autism. A lot more autism. I'm noticing it. I'm seeing it. Parents with autistic children, people who are autistic. I know teachers. I've spoken to them at schools, and they say the last 20, 25 years, the number of autistic children we have to deal with, their words, not mine, have quote-unquote skyrocketed. So something is happening. This is not made up. This is not a conspiracy. This is not fiction. There is a surge, a crisis, whatever you want to call it. But autism rates have gone much, much, much higher in the last 20 to 30 years. And the question is why? Like, something is causing this. Why? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quickly. This is a very good text that I got. 603. You can text the Kuhner Man. 70470. 70470 from 603. And again, just an absolutely dynamite point. We watched the press conference with President Trump and RFK Jr. because we had a news feed that carried the entire thing. But are you aware, Jeff, that Fox News started to carry the press conference, but a little while into it, they cut away and went to something else? Now, why do you suppose they cut their coverage short, Jeff? Could it have anything to do with the fact that Big Pharma is one of their main advertisers? Sometimes money talks, and sometimes money silences. Bingo. Bingo. And to be fair, it's not just Fox, MSNBC, CNN, the nightly news. It doesn't matter. Big Pharma, they make billions of dollars off of Big Pharma advertising, and newspapers as well. Just look at the ads in newspapers. Half the ads are Big Pharma. This is from Tristan on Messenger, and he's making a very interesting point. Jeff, I've been following the research into the link between increased rates of autism in children and Tylenol being given to expectant mothers and young children. Prior to the early 1980s, and that is very true, aspirin, that's right, aspirin was the preferred over-the-counter medicine taken by both pregnant women and young children. Yet around the early 1980s, links between aspirin usage and Ray's syndrome were being widely studied, and so pediatricians began recommending that aspirin be substituted with Tylenol. And Tylenol purchases skyrocketed. Ironically, this occurred around the same time as the infamous Tylenol murders, which I remember as well as a young kid, or I guess young teen. And then Tristan followed up by saying, Jeff, the data that's been compiled about the link between Tylenol use among pregnant women and autism shows a definite spike in the rates of autism among children birthed from women who took Tylenol. You know what they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, it doesn't mean if you take Tylenol, your child's going to have, be autistic. It doesn't mean you're a bad mother or a negligent mother, but they're noticing something is going on here. And, if you don't need it, as Trump said, if you don't need to take it, what's the damage? How does it hurt you not to take it? Unless you really need to take it and your doctor says, look, you got to take it. But unless it's that, why take it? What does it hurt not to take it? And again, it's just a recommendation. You want to take it? Take it. It's a free country. Greg in Boston. Thanks for holding, Greg, and welcome.
I've been listening to you for a long time. One of your earlier callers mentioned Brittany and Cooksey. I was laughing because I remember when you used to sit in for Savage, and I agree with him. You are such a strong voice, and I hope you never change. It's been I've been with you for a long time.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
I mean it sincerely. But it's funny. It's anything that Trump could get out, go outside and say the sky's blue. And then they would pick a rainy day and say, no, it's not. It's gray. He's a liar. He's a this. He's a that. And in my own personal life, I do everything in moderation. Okay, so I got a headache. I can't take it. I'll take a Tylenol. I'm 58. I go to the doctors and they ask you, what do you want? What medications you're taking? I'm like, nothing. I take some vitamins. And
Greg, I'm sorry. Can you please hang on? I'm up against a hard break, but I want to come right back to you. Okay, let's go right back to Greg in Boston. Greg, you were saying you're 58 or 59 years old. You only take vitamins. Yeah, when you have a really bad headache, of course, you'll take a Tylenol. When you go see your doctor, you don't like to take medications. You're trying not to take medications. You believe in moderation in all things, which I agree with as well. Please pick up where you left off, Greg.
No, Jeff, as I was saying, it is everything. It's like you were talking about the ancient Greek philosophers, the Stoics. It's everything in moderation. When I go to the doctors, they ask if I'm on any medications. And I'm like, no, and they give you a double take. We're an over-medicated country. I mean, probably the world at large. Everything is a quick fix. Now, I went to school at a time, like I said, I'm a little bit older than you. Had I gone to school, today, they diagnosed me with ADD because I was a daydreamer in class. And I don't know, and most of my friends were daydreamers, but you get older, you mature, you got ability to concentrate. And everything is not a quick fix. It's not a pill, I'm not some Puritan. I like to have a nice steak dinner, lobster mac, Capitol Grill, whatever. But I pick my spots. I pick my spots. I eat pretty clean during the week. Weekends, I'll indulge a little bit. And I think if, again, and I'm not being preachy, do what you want. But if you live that way, you're going to have a higher quality of life. And the answer is not a pill. The answer is not always a pill. And one of the other things I just wanted to bring up, Jeff, you were talking about when I originally called, was just this, you're talking about Jimmy Kimmel and, the vitriol. Somebody called in, a guy wears a Trump hat, you got to look over your shoulder. It really starts at education in the classroom. And you get all these moonbats, all these woke people, and you get these kids for 12 years in grade school when their minds are pliable and they're just pumping this stuff. America's bad. There's nothing. When I went to school, it was patriotic. They talked about all the greatest country in the world. And if we want to change things in the country in large part, it really starts with kids. Get in school boards, get in school committees. If you have kids young kids, you got a dog in the fight. It's extra work. Everybody's busy, but it's really worth it. And that's how we're going to change, because young people come out of, grade school hating this country. And then, the cherry on top is they go to college or university and they're socialists. I was very fortunate. My daughter went to a regional school that just, reading, writing, arithmetic. And she got a terrific education. And, she's not infected with this wokeness. And I count my blessings every single day for it. She went to Salve Regina, a Jesuit school, and she's got common sense. And if we want to change the attitudes of this country, it really starts there. And it's work, but it's worth it, especially if you got young kids. I'm very fortunate. My daughter went to school where she did, and then they're continuing at a university level. But if we want to make some changes, people need to have a love of country. It's the greatest country in the world, and it still is.
Amen.
So,
Greg, honestly, you're on fire. Seriously, you're a brother from another mother. I couldn't agree with you more. Not 100, 1,000%. And I've been saying this for years. The real change is only going to happen when we take back the schools. And I love homeschooling. If you want to do homeschooling, great. I love chartered schools. I love private schools, religious schools. But the public school system, we have to take it back. And that's where the indoctrination is really hard. That's where they hit you hard and heavy. That's where they really start brainwashing your children. And that's why run for school board. Watch over your child's education, monitor it, because you're right. They get them when they're young, and then they finish them off in college or university, usually. And then they come out literally flaming communists or flaming Marxists. They become like AOC or Ilhan Omar. And then if you're lucky, you get them back in their 40s and 50s. If you're lucky, for most people. Because a life will teach them what a lie they've been taught. That they've been taught a pack of lies. But it takes a long time, and the damage is immense. They ruin these kids' lives. They come out bitter, angry, miserable. They hate their own country. They don't take advantage of all the opportunities this country has to offer. But, it's even more sinister than that, Greg. And let me just end it by saying this. Look, I hear it from my 15-year-old son and my 13-year-old daughter. Kids that, never even thought of themselves being gay are now being told they're gay, or they're bisexual, or they're transsexual, or they're transgender, or they're pansexual. I'm not kidding. Or they're furries or whatever. So, like a girl that would just be considered a tomboy when you and I were growing up, or a guy that was maybe just a little more on the artistic, creative side, and would have, a few what we consider quote unquote, feminine traits or whatever. But, it's just because he's more sensitive or more artistically inclined or whatever. No, I'm not kidding. You got to get a sex change operation. You got to take puberty blockers. You got to take all these kinds of hormones. You got to eventually, mutilate your genitals. They destroy these children. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Thank you so much for that call, Greg. And now we're leading this epidemic of trans shootings or pro-trans shootings like what happened to Charlie Kirk. So it starts in the schools and it gets worse from there. Marianne in Danvers. Thanks for holding, Marianne, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call. Just a quick, I don't know if you call it a comment, but I just came back from Iceland, and I have a lot of sinus issues. So just from, flying, I had headaches, sinus headaches. So I went into a pharmacy. Pharmacy was right in Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland, very metropolitan. And I went to the pharmacist and I said, I have sinus problems. I have a headache. Can you direct me, where I can pick something up? And she said, of course. And she brought me down an aisle and gave me, it's called Cool and Soothe, cooling gel sheet. So basically, immediate cooling relief from migraine. So there was 4 in a pack and very thin. You break them. And it's like a sheet, and you put it on your head, non-medicinal. And I said, oh.
Marianne, can you please hang on? I want you to finish this. Okay, let's go right back to Marianne in Danvers. So she takes a trip to Iceland. She's in the capital, Reykjavik. The poor woman's got sinus issues. Her head is probably pounding her. Her head is pounding. And, she's got obviously a sinus pain. So she goes into the pharmacy. They say, sure, we got something for your sinus problem, but they give her something that's non-medicinal. It's like a cold sheet that she puts over her sinuses. Marianne, please pick up where you left off.
Okay. So later on that day, I went back to my hotel, and I lie down on the bed, put it on. Within 20 minutes, my sinus pain was relieved. And so prior to that, the pharmacist told me that this is what we would use prior to taking any type of medication. And this is how basically we do things here. We are the type of society that reverts back to how we were treated as children and our parents treated us. Our grandparents practiced this way. They basically said that they would go that way first before introducing medication. And she went on and told me about, the cold seasons and what they did during cold seasons for children. And, and it was pretty interesting. So it worked. It worked. And then I went back and I bought many packs to bring home. And I'm actually giving a pack to a friend today who suffers from migraines.
Yeah, good for you. No, you're right. Yeah. No, Marianne, look, you're completely right. Look, here it's the opposite. And look, I don't want to denigrate because I think there's so much good about American healthcare and American medicine. But here it's not non-medicinal first, as frankly most of Europe, not just Iceland. And then, okay, if you need medicine, you take medicine. No, here, pop the pill right away. I mean, it's, and it doesn't matter. Pediatrician, doctor, just take a pill. There it is. Take a pill. You almost walk in, you barely say hello, and here, take a pill. Here's a prescription, take a pill. And I was talking about this with Sandy when we were off air. Notice in Europe, the one thing that stands out when you watch TV, not that I watch TV here or there, but it's just noticeable, their commercials. They don't have commercials when it comes to big pharma the way we have here. Where, have you noticed, like, you watch these commercials, and it's, if you suffer from depression, okay, and you're already taking medication for it, okay, then they say, well, you can try even a secondary medication. Like, in other words, add even more to what you're originally taking. And maybe with the secondary medication, you're going to feel even better. And then they say, go talk to your doctor. And it's always some crazy name that nobody can pronounce. So I'm just going to make one up, Nadisia. So take ask your doctor about Nadisia. And I'm watching this and I'm like, why should I go and ask my doctor about Nadisia? I'm making up the name, Nadisia. Why shouldn't the doctor talk to me about Nadisia? In other words, if I'm in the doctor's office, I'm like, I'm being treated for depression. What you're giving me, whatever it is, it just doesn't seem to be working 100%. Well, then let the doctor recommend something. No. In this country, they're spending billions of dollars to put ideas in your head that you need to take even more medication, and that you should go to your doctor and advocate for him what medication you should take. I'm done. It's a racket.